Alejandro Licona from Cafam School, 8th grade student. It is a pleasure for us to interview you about your life experience during the pandemic. And so I'm going to start with the questions.
Okay.
What is your name?
My name is Ed Miller.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from England, but I work in Dubai in the UAE.
Oh, that's great. Where do you live?
Sorry, say that again?
Where do you live?
Well, I live in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates.
Okay. What do you do for a living?
I'm a teacher.
Oh, that's great. Have you been working from home? For how long? How has it
Yes,
been?
I was working from home from the beginning of March all the way through to the beginning of July. So it was about 15, 16 weeks that I worked from home, teaching from home.
How has it been that experience?
It's been interesting. It's been very different to normal. So probably like you've experienced from the other side, having all your lessons online and trying to teach online obviously is quite tricky. But it's great to see how all the students adapted and adapted to the situation and still managed to learn. And I live on my own, so it was actually quite nice every day to be doing my lessons and getting to see people during the day, even if it was students or other members of staff.
I can imagine. Are you required to go to your workplace?
Only on a few occasions, so maybe in the last 2 or 3 weeks before we finished for the summer, I had to go in just for a day, maybe on 2 or 3 occasions, just to make sure my classroom was all packed up, because obviously we didn't have an opportunity to do that before the summer. And just a few little things like that, but mainly stayed at home.
How have you felt?
When I went into work? Yeah, so when I went, yeah, it was okay. It was very different. There was obviously no students there, so it was very quiet. But I did see a few other colleagues when I was in there, so we were limited of how many people could go in at once, but maybe I could see 2 or 3 colleagues when I went in. So it was nice to see people who I hadn't seen for a while.
Okay. What emotions did you experience in confinement time?
Lots really. It was obviously a very confusing time. There was times when you were lonely if you were on your own. But also it was nice to see. I felt I talked to my family and my friends a lot more than I would do. So I called them a lot more often. We had lots of Zoom conversations. And there was a lot more maybe caring going on. So people were making sure that everyone was okay and looked after. So it was nice in that respect.
How could you self-regulate those emotions?
How could I, what, sorry?
How could you self-regulate those emotions?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. I've got them written down. Let me just have a look at the one you said. Just give me a second. Just so I make sure I fully understand. Okay, so I guess I don't know. With the positive emotions that I talked about. So all the kindness that was going on and the people looking out for each other. I think it's important to try and keep those going on as long as we can. So when this pandemic is over, that people don't forget about those things and we don't go back to sort of maybe the bad things that we used to do in the past and when we didn't look out for each other as much. So it would be nice if we can maybe remember this time in a positive way and move forward and make sure that we're still nice to each other and we're remember the good things about what has happened.
Okay. Tell us about an experience or networking initiative lived in this time of pandemic?
One thing that I really enjoyed in school that is something that I would never normally do. And literally the week before school closed, our school was meant to do a big musical performance. So I don't know if you've heard of the musical Hairspray before. So it was a big film in America, maybe 5-6 years ago. And we were going to do that as our performance. All the students had been rehearsing for months. And the show got cancelled literally 2 days before their first performance because the government said, obviously, we're not allowed shows on, we can't have people coming and watching and things like that. So I was actually had a very small part in it. They got a few of the teachers involved. So what we did, we managed to do a virtual performance of a few of the songs. So we all recorded our own bit, whether it's singing or on instruments. And then one of the music teachers managed to put it all together. So it sounded like we were all singing it at the same time. So it was really good to get that sort of virtual experience together. So even though they couldn't do the performance, we managed to get it as a video and send it out to parents, and we could enjoy performing together from our own houses.
It's interesting. Do you consider that you are a leader? In what aspect? What initiative would you lead to overcome some of the crises present?
Good question. So would I consider myself a leader? Well, in my job, I have to be a leader. So I'm in charge of a few other teachers. So one thing I really learned perhaps during the pandemic or during the pandemic is to maybe give people a little bit more leeway and a little bit more time. Because things like this, people, it's the first time people have ever experienced these types of things, however old you are. So even if you're 70 or 80, you're not used to things like this. So maybe just giving people a little bit more time to do things in their own way and maybe lower expectations a little bit. I found that useful as I was leading people, and that made them happier, more comfortable, and probably in turn made them do their job even better than if I had high expectations or really pushed them a little bit further. So if I was to be sort of like a major leader, maybe that's what I try and get in, maybe a bit of compassion and maybe appreciating what people think at this time, and maybe the decisions that some leaders make very quickly, maybe they don't think about how this will make people feel. So maybe just any decision that I would have to make is maybe think about how it's going to make people feel. And if it's going to be a tough decision, maybe explain to those people why you're making those decisions and how it's going to be good for us in the long term.
Okay. How do you think local communities should be organized to overcome obstacles or crises at this juncture for humanity?
So in terms, I think it's moving forward, it'd be good for them to learn, like I said earlier, about all the good things that's happened. So I'm sure you've seen pictures of all over the world of how like the environment has got a lot better. So I don't know, for example, obviously I live in Europe, or I'm in Europe at the moment. There's pictures of places like Venice in Italy and all the lakes, where the canals are, they're crystal clear waters. They're normally all polluted. And in China, obviously, there was, when the pandemic started, there was pictures of, you could see the stars in the major cities, which you can never do. And just thinking that actually maybe it doesn't take that much if we all stop doing things, it doesn't take that much to heal some of these environmental issues. And although I don't think we'd ever expect for everyone to go into lockdown to heal these things in a few months, but maybe it shows us just what little changes we can all do to help in that respect.
Absolutely. Talking about the economic crisis generated by coronavirus, in a phrase, what lesson would you give to the leaders of the world on the need to respect the environmental balance of the planet versus the development of economies?
Okay, so also just talked a little bit about the environment, but In terms of the economy, I think maybe what this is, certainly from the experience of the countries I've been in, what this has really shown us is that, I don't know, a phrase that is used in England a lot is what we call key workers. So that's people like the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, maybe the police, and people like that who, if we didn't have them, the country wouldn't be able to run. But actually, if you look at how much they get paid, it's not very much in comparison to people like the bankers or the rich business owners and things like that. And maybe the government can maybe do something to maybe show a bit more appreciation and try and narrow that gap between the sort of really, really rich and actually the people who do the key jobs in the country, who without it, we wouldn't be able to run, because if we didn't have the doctors and nurses, obviously lots and lots of more people would have got sick, lots of people wouldn't have recovered, and actually they're the people who perhaps we should be focusing on looking after, and actually making the children of today and the workers of tomorrow actually want to say, actually, I really want to be a doctor, or I really want to be a nurse, or I really want to be a teacher, because they're attractive jobs. At the moment, I think there's a bit of a difference between those types of jobs and other things that get paid a lot more for, obviously very good jobs, but maybe the difference isn't represented in what they do.
I think so too. Thanks a lot for your time and for giving us this opportunity for generating empathy among cultures in challenging times.
No problem at all. And thank you for asking such brilliant questions. And you did very well in doing them all in English for me. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
No problem.